Peppa Pig and Tidy Up Day. Peppa and George's room. Toys are scattered all over the floor. Teddy bears, balls, and building blocks. Peppa looks around the room, a little surprised. George sits among the toys, happily playing. Mummy Pig walks in smiling. Mummy Pig hands a toy box to Peppa. Peppa picks up a teddy bear and puts it into the box. George picks up a ball, but it rolls away. Daddy Pig comes in from outside.
Aha!
Daddy Pig picks up the ball and hands it back to George. George smiles happily. Peppa Pig and the Blooming Flower. Peppa and the Puddle. After the rain, the garden is still wet. Peppa walks outside and strolls on the grass. Peppa suddenly notices a small puddle on the path. Peppa stops and bends down to look. Peppa jumps into the puddle. Water splashes around. Peppa looks at the puddle and smiles happily. Peppa jumps again. George plays with a leaf and sees Peppa splashing. George looks down at the puddle. George jumps in with Peppa. The two siblings jump in the puddle and laugh happily. Peppa and the Rolling Balloon. Peppa walks into the living room. A small toy car lies on the floor. Peppa sees the toy car and gets an idea.
2 hours later.
Peppa holds a balloon. Peppa ties the balloon string to the back of the toy car. Peppa gently pushes the car. The car rolls slowly. The balloon sways behind. Peppa opens her eyes wide with delight. George runs into the room. George sees the toy car rolling. George lightly taps the car. The car rolls faster on the floor. The car rolls around the living room. Peppa and George run after the car. Yahoo! After catching the car, they look at each other and laugh happily. Peppa Pig and the Cloud Pillow. Peppa finds a soft cloud-like pillow and hugs it. George touches it, and the pillow glows gently. They imagine floating through the sky on a fluffy cloud. The cloud carries them past rainbows and soft breezes. wakes up smiling, with Mummy Pig watching warmly. Peppa and the Sparkling Magic Wand. Peppa walks into the room, looking around curiously. A small wand sparkles on the chair. Peppa walks closer and touches the wand. The wand glows brighter. Peppa opens her eyes wide in surprise. Peppa picks up the wand and waves it gently. Magical bubbles appear. Peppa smiles happily. George runs over and looks at the magical circle. Peppa waves the wand again. Glowing magic circles appear. Peppa and George jump happily. The magic light slowly fades, and they both smile happily. Peppa helps Mummy Pig clean the house. Peppa and George are happily playing in the living room with toys scattered all over the floor. The room looks so messy. Mummy Pig walks in, looks around the messy room, and decides it's time to clean up. Peppa and George quickly say, "Let us do the cleaning ourselves." The two little ones start picking up toys and putting them into baskets. When they finish, Mummy Pig feels so proud of them. Gentle giggles fill the warm, cozy room. Hearing the laughter, Daddy Pig peeks in curiously. Oh no! He steps on George's toy car. It looks so funny. Peppa, George, and Mummy Pig burst out laughing. While Daddy Pig looks confused about why that toy is there. Peppa and the Little Bell. Peppa walks into the room. Peppa sees a small bell lying on the table. Peppa moves closer. Peppa looks carefully at the bell. Peppa touches the bell, and it rings softly. Peppa opens her eyes wide and smiles. Peppa picks up the bell. Peppa rings the bell, and it goes ding ding. Peppa looks at the bell and smiles happily. George hears the sound and runs in. George looks at the bell curiously. Peppa gives the bell to George. George holds the bell and gently rings it. The bell makes a cheerful sound. Peppa and George look at each other and smile happily. Peppa Pig and the Rainbow Rain. It's raining outside, and Peppa and George watch the raindrops slide down the window, wondering when a rainbow will appear. The rain stops, and sunlight peeks through the clouds. Peppa happily grabs her umbrella and runs outside with George to find the rainbow. A big, colorful rainbow arches across the sky. Peppa skips with joy, while George points up in amazement. In their imagination, Peppa and George slide down the rainbow like a giant, colorful slide, laughing as they glide through fluffy clouds. As the rainbow fades, Peppa and George lie on the grass, smiling softly, knowing that every rain brings a little magic. Peppa and the Little Umbrella House. Peppa walks into the garden and sees an umbrella lying on the grass. Peppa curiously walks closer. Peppa presses the button, and the umbrella pops open. Peppa is slightly startled, then smiles happily. George hears the sound, runs over, and looks at the open umbrella. Whoa! Peppa slowly lowers the umbrella to the floor. Peppa gently pats the floor to signal George. George crawls under with her. A gentle breeze makes the umbrella tilt slightly. The two siblings try to steady the swaying umbrella. The umbrella becomes steady again. Peppa and George look at each other in relief. They both laugh happily. Peppa and the colorful balloons. Peppa walks into the garden and sees a bunch of colorful balloons. Peppa opens her eyes wide and runs closer. George runs after her, looking curiously at the balloons. Peppa gently touches the balloons. George points at the blue balloon and smiles. Peppa gives one balloon to George. George hugs the balloon and runs around. Peppa throws a balloon into the air. Peppa and George look up, surprised. Daddy Pig comes out and sees the balloons floating high. Daddy Pig holds the balloon strings tightly. Peppa and George jump up happily. Peppa and George play together with a bunch of colorful balloons. The whole family laughs happily. Peppa and George were sitting in the yard when they looked up at the sky and saw a cloud shaped like a bear. Peppa pointed at the sky and said, "Look, this cloud looks like a bear sleeping." George mimicked the bear, lying down and pretending to sleep on the grass, making Peppa laugh loudly. Mummy Pig walked over and saw them, saying, "You both are so cute, just like real bears." Peppa and George stood up and began imitating bears, walking slowly around the yard, laughing happily. Finally, the whole family sat together in the yard, looking at the bear-shaped cloud and enjoying the simple joy of the moment.
Peppa and George take care of the flamingos. Peppa and George are visiting a bright pink flamingo farm. Peppa has an important job delivering juicy watermelons to the hungry flamingos. It turns out the flamingos here absolutely love watermelon. Whoa! Peppa watches proudly while George is amazed at how quickly the long beaks peck away. After a big meal, there is always another job to do. Peppa becomes the farm's most hard-working cleaner. Peppa and George learn that caring for animals means feeding them and keeping their home nice and clean.
Peppa and the leaf on her head. Peppa walks slowly in the garden. A leaf falls down from above. The leaf gently lands on Peppa's head. Peppa doesn't notice and keeps walking. Peppa stops and looks around. The leaf on the head gently wiggles in the breeze. George runs over and looks at Peppa's head. George points and giggles. Peppa reaches up to her head, but can't quite reach it. The leaf falls into Peppa's hand. A gentle breeze blows. The leaf blows away from Peppa's hand. Peppa and George watch it fly away and smile. The leaf swirls gently and falls to the ground. Peppa picks up the leaf and places it on George's head. George stays still for a moment, then smiles. Peppa laughs happily.
Peppa and George play with a paper airplane. Peppa sits in the living room with a paper. Peppa folds the paper into a paper airplane. Peppa holds the airplane and looks at it happily. George stands nearby and curiously looks at the airplane. Peppa gives George a paper airplane. They stand side by side holding their airplanes. Peppa throws her airplane first. George throws his airplane into the air. The two airplanes glide through the air. One airplane circles and lands on the grass. Peppa and George run after the airplanes. George picks up the airplane and gives it to Peppa. They look at each other and laugh happily.
Peppa and George were sitting in the yard when they looked up at the sky and saw a cloud shaped like a bear. Peppa pointed at the sky and said, "Look, this cloud looks like a bear sleeping." George mimicked the bear, lying down and pretending to sleep on the grass, making Peppa laugh loudly. Mummy Pig walked over and saw them, saying, "You both are so cute, just like real bears." Peppa and George stood up and began imitating bears, walking slowly around the yard, laughing happily. Finally, the whole family sat together in the yard, looking at the bear-shaped cloud and enjoying the simple joy of the moment. Peppa in the blue raincoat. It starts raining heavily outside. Peppa stands by the door and watches the rain. Mummy Pig comes out and gives Peppa a raincoat. Peppa walks over and puts on the raincoat.
2 hours later.
Peppa walks outside, wearing the blue raincoat. Peppa holds out her hand to catch the raindrops. Peppa sees a small puddle on the ground. Peppa jumps lightly into the puddle. George runs outside and sees Peppa jumping in the puddle. George looks at Peppa's blue raincoat. Peppa jumps again and water splashes around. The two siblings laugh happily in the light rain. Peppa and George packed the picnic basket with Mummy Pig, bringing bread, fruit, and drinks. The family walked into the colorful flower garden with bees and butterflies flying around.
Hey!
Peppa picked a red rose. George picked a sunflower, both laughing happily. Daddy Pig lifted Peppa to reach a tall flower. Peppa raised her hand excitedly. George curiously watched a snail crawling on a leaf. The family sat on the picnic blanket, eating bread, drinking water, and enjoying the beautiful garden view.
Peppa and 2 balls. Peppa walks into the yard and sees 2 balls, one red and one blue on the grass. Peppa looks at the 2 balls and smiles happily. A gentle breeze blows and one ball starts rolling away. Peppa watches the rolling ball in surprise. George runs over and sees the other ball. George kicks the ball and it rolls away. Peppa and George run after the 2 balls in the yard. Peppa picks up a ball and tosses it gently into the air. George rolls the other ball toward Peppa. Yahoo! The 2 siblings look at each other and laugh happily. Peppa and the Flying Hat. Peppa walks into the yard and sees a hat on the grass. Peppa walks closer and picks up the hat. Peppa puts the hat on and smiles happily. George is playing with a ball nearby when he sees Peppa and the hat. A gentle breeze blows by. The hat on Peppa's head is blown into the air. Peppa watches the flying hat in surprise. The hat floats and lands farther away. Peppa runs after the hat. George runs after her. The hat rolls on the grass and stops. Peppa picks up the hat. They look at each other and laugh happily. Peppa and George learn color. Peppa and George take a walk in the park, where the world looks like a giant box of crayons. Colors are everywhere, bright, soft, warm and cool, just waiting to be noticed. In the middle of the grass, a blue flower sways softly, like a tiny piece of the sky resting on the ground. Blue is the color of calm rivers and wide skies. It feels cool, peaceful, and gentle. Right beside it, a bright yellow flower shines proudly in the sunlight. Yellow is the color of sunshine and happiness. It feels warm, cheerful, and full of energy. Above them, green leaves rustle in the breeze, forming a soft canopy overhead. Green is the color of life and growing things. It feels fresh, healthy, and full of nature. Nearby, a yellow excavator stands still on the grass, bold and bright. Bright yellow is easy to see. It grabs attention and makes sure no one misses it. Under their feet lies brown soil, warm and steady. Brown is the color of the earth. It feels strong, safe, and dependable, the perfect place for colorful flowers to grow. In the park, Peppa and George learn that every color has its own feeling, and together they make the world beautiful.
Peppa and 2 leaves. Peppa walks around the garden. Peppa sees 2 leaves lying on the grass. One leaf is big and one leaf is small. Peppa picks up the big leaf and looks at it closely. Peppa picks up the small leaf with her other hand. Peppa compares the 2 leaves. Peppa puts the 2 leaves on the ground. A gentle breeze blows by. The small leaf starts rolling across the grass. Peppa is surprised and runs after the leaf. George runs over. The leaf stops at his feet. At the same time, Peppa runs up just in time. Peppa picks up both leaves again. Peppa tosses the 2 leaves into the air. The 2 leaves spin and float down slowly. Peppa and George raise their hands to catch the leaves. One leaf lands on George's head. Peppa sees it and laughs happily. George laughs too.
Peppa and the hamburger. Peppa sits on a picnic blanket with a basket beside her. Peppa opens the basket and takes out a hamburger. Peppa looks at the sandwich happily. Whoa! George stands nearby and looks at the sandwich. Peppa holds the hamburger, about to eat. Suddenly, Peppa drops the sandwich onto the blanket. Peppa looks at the hamburger in surprise. George bends down and looks at the hamburger. Peppa picks up the hamburger. Peppa gives the hamburger to George. George holds the piece and smiles. Peppa takes another hamburger from the basket for herself. Then they eat the hamburger.
2 hours later.
Peppa stands up after eating. They run around the yard and laugh. Woo-hoo-hoo!